So thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to talk about, with two novelists and screenwriters today. The panel is going to be on script to page. I have a tendency to say screen, but it's script to page. As you guys know, the bookseller for this event is Iron Dog Books, and they're located in the lobby, and all the books for all the authors that are circulating and wanting to meet all of you and talk about how they do what they do. All their books are available for sale. And if there's also a silent auction I was supposed to mention, if you go to wordvancouver.ca, you can go into the silent auction as well. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge that the festival takes place on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. I'm also supposed to thank a ton of volunteers so just take a moment, because without all these volunteers, the event couldn't be possible. It's a free event, as you know, and there's an enormous amount of talent in this building today. We'd like to give special thanks to SFU and the Writers Studio for the wonderful space and their continuous generous support of Word Vancouver, the Canada Arts Council, the Canada Book Fund, the Canadian Heritage Fund, the Canadian Periodical Fund, the BC Arts Council, the BC Gaming, Creative BC, the City of Vancouver, DBVIA, the WASC Family Foundation, the Hamper Foundation, the BC and Yukon Book Prizes, the Asian Canadian Writers Workshop, CWIL, CWILL, Pace and Associates, the Crime Writers Association, the Federation of BC Writers, the Surrey Library, the Vancouver Public Library, the League of Canadian Poets, the Writers Union of Canada, the Wine Festival, and many, many more. So you can visit their website if you want more information on who's actually sponsored the event and how they can further your careers or your interests in reading and writing and filmmaking. That's it. I mean, you're going first, Kat?
That's right.
Okay, so I can introduce Kat unless you want to say anything beforehand? Okay, let me find the beginning to YouTube. Kat Montagu, sitting directly to my left, wrote the bestseller The Dreaded Curse, Screenplay Formatting for Film and TV, published by 3 Ocean Press. She will soon have a second edition to include video games. She wrote for the TV series Alienated and has worked in script development for film and TV and taught screenwriting for many years. The senior story editor for acclaimed short film competition Crazy Eights. She also produces films through her company Write, Shoot, Edit Productions, and co-produced the indie feature The Prodigal Dad in 2021. Montagu most recently teamed up with acclaimed sci-fi writer Sarah B. Cooper to write the pilot for a time travel novel to TV series called Just One Damn Thing After Another, an adaptation of the Chronicles of St. Mary by Jodie Taylor. Selected for Banff, she pitched 2 series at Banff, False Creek and Criminal Reality, both 1-hour dramas.
Criminal Beauty, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, both 1-hour dramas, that's right.
Both 1-hour dramas, and she also participated in the Banff World Film Festival, where she was selected for the Banff Sparks program, and pitched her time travel series, Just One Damn Thing After Another.
Also going to Content London.
Oh, right. She's also attending Content London, which I highly recommend if there's any screenwriters in the room or producers. You look into it. Creative BC provides funding, and it's a forum that is available for meeting commissioning editors and such, and mostly in TV, but documentary as well. It's like a 3-day event in London, England. Okay, off you go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kimberley. And just before I begin, I also want to introduce Kimberley Wakefield, who is an active television and film producer. And I asked Kimberley to introduce us because I thought, it's all very well to write screenplays, but if you don't have a producer, if you can't attach a team to your project, what do you have? A book you can publish. We can actually, you can publish it or self-publish it. But a screenplay or a teleplay, it's very difficult to do anything with it if you don't have a team. So introducing Kimberley and bringing Kimberley with us was kind of our way of giving you your first taste of meeting an actual live active producer. So I hope at the end, when it comes to Q&A, you'll feel free to ask Kimberley questions as well. So I wrote this book as a handout for a class I was teaching. As you heard, I teach screenwriting and have done for many years. And it became clear to me over the course of a few years that there were very few good books, especially short books, about screenplay formatting. And screenplay formatting is the building blocks of screenplay. It's the one thing that makes it tricky sometimes for novelists and short story writers to make that transition into screenplay writing, because they don't know how to put the words down on the page in a professional manner to make it look like an actual script, and also so that it'll be a good blueprint for the movie or television series that it will become. That handout that I made grew and grew and grew, and it got longer, and then I was thinking about self-publishing a novel, and I thought, I'll just give it a trial run. I'll guinea pig it, and the guinea pig is going to be my handout. And so I self-published it, and then Three Ocean Press approached me, because I know Kyle Hook, who's out in the lobby, and he said, would you be interested in expanding this and turning it into a book? And I was like, yes, absolutely, I would do that. So I did. We worked together over that for over a while, which has been great. And when we do expand it into the next edition, it's going to be animation and video games. So it's going to be right now it's film, 1 hour television, a half-hour sitcom, both multicam and single cam, and it's also going to be animation and video games, because they were all formatted differently, and there's no guide for them out there. And at Vancouver Film School, where I teach, and Roslyn teaches too, we do teach video game writing as well. So that really matters, and it's going to be really helpful, I hope, to a whole generation of writers, where there's at least some kind of guide. These things become outdated very quickly. It's very annoying to me, and so I'm going to give you a heads up. If you buy this book, one thing has already become outdated, and it is the number of acts in a TV movie. I'm hoping you will talk about that, but just FYI, you may want to amend your book if you have a copy of it. At the beginning of the first section, it's a 9-act structure. So when I wrote it, it was still 8 to 9. Now it's 9, and it's a moving target. This kind of thing. So it's a good book to publish as a potential e-version as well, so that they can make those changes. All right, so the bit that I'm going to read from is in the middle, actually. I've read the beginning so much, I'm sick of it myself. So I'm not going to read the beginning. And the beginning is all about feature films. This is a screenplay guide in the form of a screenplay. So it's about something. It's about two witches, they're sisters. One of them has killed her boyfriend, and buried him on the grounds of a manor house, and he is haunting her. She's kind of fed up. She invites her sister over to help her with this issue, and they accidentally bring him back to life. And then he steals her car. Right? That's what it's about. So when I'm beginning this second section, which is about television screenwriting, it's about multicam sitcom, they have followed him to Los Angeles to get the car back. That is what they are doing. So it begins with a title page, and you can see what the title page looks like. I'm not going to read that because it's boring. Cast list. So we have Hazel Rosetta, the ghost. There's a diner owner, a yoga beauty, a Portuguese grandmother, and the voice of a cook. And then we have a set list of interiors and exteriors, and then the cold open. Interior, haunted manor house dining room night, Rosetta, Hazel. Intense Hazel, 24, and hipster Rosetta, 22, sit with the messy remains of a meal. So I'm clearly going to have to follow him to Los Angeles. Hazel pulls her laptop out of her bag and starts looking for flights. Her keyboard clicks. How is that your takeaway for this conversation? He was a terrible boyfriend. In multicam sitcoms, because action descriptions are in caps, underlining makes sounds or emphasis or the first introduction of a character's name stand out. Good for dialogue emphasis too. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. Hazel has put a spell on Rosetta to tell her about screenplay formatting. So there's some mix of weird dialogue about the story and then screenplay formatting. Hazel ignores her, types rapidly, then presses enter. Good. 2 tickets, first thing tomorrow, dibs on the window seat. Maybe we could take in a live sitcom taping. Hey, that sounds fun. Add a scene heading from page 2 on, click document, then header, and then footer. Like the one at the top of this page. Yep, they contain much more information than a feature header, series title in bold, and episode name in quotations, then numerical date and page number. Hey, why are we still talking about screenplay formatting? I'm still under your spell to teach you about formatting, and we haven't covered television yet. Oh, you're kidding. I wish I were. Multicam sitcoms don't need fade in at the start. You do need to capitalize and underline scene headings, though. Rosetta finishes her wine. I still love him, you know. What? Seriously? What is wrong with you? Multicam sitcom parentheticals are most often on the same line as the dialogue in caps. Rosetta crosses to fetch a new bottle of wine. The two of you were like sitcom characters. Sam and Diane, Rachel and Ross, Sheldon and Amy. All of those characters broke up. Exactly. Right, I know, you're right. Multi-am sitcom is double-spaced, which changes the ratio. For an episode that's 22 minutes long, the page count is going to be about 44 minutes. Some multicam sitcoms single-spaced dialogue, but their scripts can still be 33 pages long. Hazel jumps up. That's it, we better pack. Okay, but please don't try and get him back. Of course not, I just want my car. I love that car. Right, I do too. Rosetta jumps up too and crosses to the door. You have to write the act breaks where the commercial breaks go. These act breaks are capped, centered, underlined, and often also bolded. A typical sitcom has a cold open, 2 or 3 pages, Act 1, 8 to 10 pages, Act 2, 13 to 14 pages, Act 3, 11 to 12 pages, and a 1-page tag. But those page numbers can vary. All right, let's toast to our trip to Los Angeles and to true love. They clink their glasses and drink, then it sinks in. Wait, what? Off Rosetta. And cold open. Act 1. Exterior Hollywood sign day. The Hollywood sign, stock footage. Exterior Los Angeles motel day. This motel is classic Los Angeles. It's got a pool and palm trees. Interior Los Angeles motel room day. Rosetta and Hazel. Rosetta chooses the bed nearest the window, puts her suitcase on it, and crosses to enter the bathroom. Hazel enters. An off-screen character like myself is OC. You probably noticed that the Hollywood sign on the Los Angeles motel establishing shots before this scene and way back at the beginning of the script, the list of locations immediately after the title page. Multicam sitcoms are filmed on standing sets with 5 to 8 locations, so they rarely have exteriors. Hazel swaps her suitcase for Rosetta's, sits down and looks out of the window. Rosetta enters. Hey, I picked that bed. Hazel lies down on it, childishly wriggling. Single-spaced action description, no more than 4 lines in a paragraph, but usually less. Many multicam sitcoms writers capitalize all of their action description as I have here, but many of them don't. Hazel sits on the other bed. Okay, margins. Same as a feature film script. Oh, thank you. Good night. Hazel puts on her earbuds and watches TV on her phone. Rosetta rolls her eyes. Exterior, Los Angeles diner day. The street is busy, stock footage. Interior, Los Angeles diner day. Rosetta, Hazel, diner owner, yoga beauty, and cook. Hazel drinks coffee and looks at a map on her phone. A text from Rosetta. Where are you? Hazel texts back. Diner. Rosetta enters and smiles at the handsome diner owner, 30, for coffee. He ignores her. She's annoyed and turns to Hazel. Have you noticed yet that the names of all of the characters who will appear in a scene are capitalized in brackets behind the scene heading, beneath that scene heading, with 1 space in front of them? Whatever. She looks at the map. I think he's staying near here. He has a friend at the Venice Canal District. Really? Near Venice Beach? Yeah, she's a television writer. He's always wanted to write for television. Is she the one? You know, the other woman? Hazel shrugs. The handsome diner owner crosses with a coffee pot, but he only has eyes for Hazel. He pours her some coffee. Can I help you, miss? Coffee, please. He says to Hazel, how about something for breakfast? Oh, thanks, just the coffee for now. Diner owner walks away without giving Rosetta any coffee. Wait, hey, what's wrong with him? Hazel drinks her coffee with relish. Don't know, he makes great coffee though. Hey, coffee, please. Diner owner ignores her and chats to Yoga Beauty, 30. Egg white omelet to go, please. Coming right up. He jots it down on his pad, rips off the page, passes it through the pass-through, and gives Yoga Beauty coffee. Underline and capitalize each new character the first time you introduce them in action. May I have a sip of your coffee? Why don't you just order breakfast, then you can have your own? 2 specials, please, and 2 coffees. Diner owner nods, scribbles down the order, comes over with his coffee pot, and fills them both up. Oh, thanks. You're welcome, he says to Hazel. With a raised brow, the diner owner walks away. When you're around, I might as well be invisible. Hazel shrugs apologetically. The Yoga Beauty stretches, super flexible, but the diner owner still looks at Hazel. Egg white omelet to go. The diner owner hands Yoga Beauty the food, and she exits. Exterior Venice Canal bungalow night. Hazel, Rosetta, Portuguese grandmother. Hazel glances around, consulting her phone. I think this is the one. That's what you said about the last 4 houses. Hazel knocks. Portuguese grandmother, 75, emerges from the bungalow, carrying a shopping basket. Composto agilo, I can't speak Portuguese. Hazel says, have I forgotten how to speak Spanish? That's Portuguese, as well as using parentheticals for tone or small pieces of action while talking. In a sitcom script, you can use them to direct a line to a specific person or to translate. Hey, Rosetta smiles at the Portuguese grandmother. Estamos procurando por un bello joven fantasmagorical. I speak English. He's out. You can wait inside if you like. Yes, please. Portuguese grandma whips out her cell phone and takes their photo, in case you steal something. The Portuguese grandmother crosses and leaves. How rude! Hazel and Rosetta enter. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I think that's enough. It's a difficult thing to read aloud on your own. Much more successful as a table read. So I often use it in my classes for that, and I'll cast it among my students, which can be a little bit more fun because then you can hear the different voices and it's kind of enjoyable. But the purpose of it is that even while you are, gathering the story, and it's kind of hopefully kind of fun, you're seeing how on the page that should look. So at the end of this section, then we move to a single cam half-hour comedy, which is not a multicam. That would be something like Curb Your Enthusiasm or the Louis series, something like that. So when you follow people outside, things like that. And then towards the end, there is a 1 hour drama. So you can see what a typical 1 hour drama looks like. And just to give you kind of a warning here, there is no typical 1 hour drama. There's no such thing as a typical half-hour comedy. Every series is a little bit different, and it makes it particularly tricky to do what I'm trying to do here, which is kind of establish a standard. The good thing about this is that you can find scripts for so many series on the internet. There's an excellent website called TV Writing, and it just says hello writers on the front. So if you look for that, it's a Google site, and it has a lot of really good examples of scripts. And it's a really good idea to look at scripts for a show like the one that you want to write. So ask yourself, is there something comparable in genre? Is there something that's similar in tone? And if you're writing a spec for a series, like you're writing a speculative episode for a particular series, you should read at least 3 scripts for that series. And look at the way they format it. How do they introduce a new character? How do they write their action description? What does their page header look like? So that you can emulate that as closely as possible. It's kind of fun to do. It's also a little tricky, and particularly for television, you have to write in the act breaks. So you're going to have to figure out ahead of time how many act breaks there are and when they are. And the act breaks are easy to spot because they're commercial breaks. So if you're watching the show, there's a commercial break, and if you're reading the script, it'll actually say end of Act 1, Act 2. And that's very useful for us. So you can go and read a couple of scripts for that series, go, okay, I see how they're making this, and then you kind of reverse engineer a typical episode when you're writing a spec. And just while we're on the subject of specs, the reason for writing a spec episode is not to sell it. The reason for writing a spec episode is to prove that you can, because you need that to get an agent. You might be able to use it to get hired as a staff writer on somebody else's show. But if you're only going to write 1 episode of television, it's much better to write an original TV pilot, because then you can use it as a sample, and you can potentially option it to a producer, someone like Ken. So it's a really good idea to think about, what kind of writer you want to be, and then write an example of that. Are you going to be a sci-fi 1 hour writer? So write a 1 hour sci-fi series pilot. And think what that world is going to be like with the characters, how you're going to introduce them, but also how you're going to put that on the page. So the purpose of this book is kind of a starting point, but it's also a reference guide. And one of the things I like most about the way the book turned out is that it has an index in the back. So you can look at the index and go, oh, how do I do phone calls? Oh, I see. And then you can just go look it up. So even though it reads like a script, it's used like a reference guide. So it's kind of a weird combo book. But it is, like I said, kind of fun to read. I hope, fingers crossed. And there will be a new edition coming out probably early next year. But in the meantime, features, half-hour comedy, 2 different kinds, and 1 hour drama is what we have. Any immediate questions? We'll take some questions at the end, I think. Anyone have any questions about this before we move on? No, you're okay? Good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So our next author, Roslyn Muir, is that the name is a Canadian author, award-winning screenwriter who writes MG stories. That's middle grade stories, family drama, and thrillers. She was a writer on the global CBS one-hour drama Ransom, and has written several movies that have aired on TV around the world: Washed Away, Stranger in the Home, and Reluctant Witness, to name a few. Roslyn also wrote and produced the dramatic feature film The Birdwatcher, and has a nonfiction screenwriting book, which we're going to hear a lot about, called Writing a TV Movie, An Insider's Guide to Launching a Screenwriting Career. Published again by 3 Ocean Press. Roslyn loves middle grade fantasy, and her first book, The Chimera Apprentice, is a series with book 2, The Stone Travelers, which she launched in May 2022, and it's published by Landscape Media. She also has an MFA from UBC School of Creative Writing and teaches there. Book 3 in this series, which title we don't know yet.
It's called The Last Merch, which you'll only get once you read the book.
Fantastic. Is expected to be published in October 15th?
It's coming out October 15th.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And that's Rainscape Media?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you. Oh my gosh, so exciting to be here. So I'm kind of like Kat in a lot of ways. We both taught at VFS, and I started this out as a manual as well for students, where I was just kind of gathering information on how to write TV movies, because I wrote so many of them, and I've had several produced, and then of course you don't see the sort of the bottom of the iceberg where you've actually written a lot more scripts that didn't sell. So I started because nobody was really teaching it in any of the schools. Like when you go to screenwriting school, basically feature film and TV series, they're the big two that people want to learn and want to succeed in. But few people know about TV movies, which are the Hallmark and Lifetime sort of staples that writers can actually, it's a really good entry-level place to sell a script and to get produced. Because once you have 1 or 2 credits, it really helps your other types of writing careers. So you might be able to get a feature made or get into a TV series, get into a writing room, because you have some of these, what I call like emerging writer opportunities. So I thought the TV movie would be something, like I'm always telling my students about it and slipping them some information and, try it. And so then I developed a course on my own that I was teaching during the pandemic. And I published this during the pandemic as well. And so I just suddenly had a lot of people coming to my website, roslynmuir.com. And there I run some classes as well, just on writing TV movies. And they've been quite popular because a lot of people are still trying to get their foot in the door, And one of the reasons that it's a great way to launch a screenwriting career is because, and I go over this in the book as well, is that a lot of the TV movies are written by non-union, so they're not in the Writers Guild, and so they're lower budget, but it's more for emerging writers to get in that way. And then once you've done a few, you can get into the union and get, and then your career just takes off. So I'm just going to sort of skim a little bit of the actual table of contents. Oh, and these aren't my reading glasses. These are I've got 2 pairs, so okay, I didn't bring them. So I really go over about like who makes these kinds of movies, what are the genre rules for each network. So you probably are most familiar with the Hallmark rom-com. And that has just been super popular, especially for Christmas movies. And now now Netflix is doing them, Paramount, all kinds of channels are doing these genres. So I go over that, and then I talk about how to actually structure these, because they're very specific. With Hallmark and Lifetime, they have a 9-act structure. And that's because they want to have as many TV commercials in the movie as possible. And now we have a lot of these movies on streamers as well, but that 9-act structure is also used in streamers too. And Kat mentioned how in her book she had hers down as an 8-act structure. Well, when I started writing these, I was writing in a 7-act structure because that's what they were using. And then the the networks decided, no, we want more commercials, so let's make it 8. No, let's make it 9. So I don't know if it's going to go. We'll soon have a 12-act structure.
Yeah.
So it might sound a little daunting because feature films tend to be 3-act structure, and TV series tend to be, depending on what they are, like 4, 5, 6 acts. So 9 acts sounds like, oh my God, but it actually is a really strong structure that is, I find, is easier to get into. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'm going to read the beginning here a little bit. And so what are TV movies? Christmas Unwrapped, Married at First Sight, You Had Me at Aloha. What do all these titles have in common? They're all TV movies. The TV movie, which is also called Movie of the Week, or MOW, is a form unto itself, and it's the workhorse of the entertainment industry. It's a movie that's more TV than film, since it adheres to a structure initially created around TV commercials. And back in the 60s and 70s, these movies started and were literally programmed and promoted as Movie of the Week. And that's how the name stuck, of course. And now that we live in a universe of endless TV channels and streamers, the moniker might seem a little bit outdated, but the film and TV industry still uses it to identify the type of project it is. TV professionals use MOW or TV movie to identify these genres, with the terms interchangeable. The TV movie is presented as a 2-hour film, but structured like a TV episode, using 9 acts in order to support as many TV commercial breaks as possible. Okay, I'm repeating myself. In the past, the TV movie was synonymous with cheesy, cheap production values and thin plot lines, but times have changed, and while cheesy, cheap, thin TV movies may still abound, there are also really big budget versions with popular actors in key roles. And as the audience has grown and evolved, so too has the TV movie. They're still called TV movies because the most popular networks for these movies, Hallmark and Lifetime, continue to broadcast on regular TV. These movies were never written for theatrical release. They're specifically written for the small screen. And why are they so popular? TV movies are entertainment, and in a busy world where most of us are bombarded by social media, work, and family responsibilities, 2 hours of familiar entertainment can be a comfort. They're also popular because of the decline of TV soap operas. Soap operas are a daily serialized 1-hour drama that viewers, primarily women, used to flock to. So soaps like Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, Young and the Restless, they all had a fervent viewer base that has lessened over time. And since these shows started in the 50s and 60s, when TV networks realized they had a captive audience in housewives, okay, sounds terrible, they could market products to them. So this dedicated group of female viewers became hooked on the daily dose of drama. But decades later, and as economies changed and more women are now in the workforce, the popularity of soap operas has waned. So networks have picked up the slack and offer the TV movie as a substitute. So Hallmark is synonymous with the TV movie. They're renowned for their entertaining seasonal movies and are dedicated to delivering hundreds of movies a year to their audience. Lifetime was one of the first dedicated TV channels to present TV movies to a specific audience, and both channels have a primarily female viewership that can reach 2 to 3 million views per movie. So it's really important that these movies are driven by the female viewer, and that's why we have a female protagonist in the TV movies, because people live vicariously through the princess or the businesswoman who's heading back to the small town to hopefully rekindle love. So a lot of them might sound similar, but the stories are changing and they're actually becoming more diverse. And the uptake in streamers like Netflix, and they're really bringing in a wider, more diverse audience. While they do not have the TV commercials, and these movies were originally designed for, they still have the same structure and appeal to a wide audience. So there's also the popularity of uplifting content like rom-coms. So romance is really hot. I think especially we found over the pandemic that everybody wanted Christmas movies in September, and networks like Hallmark were really just I think they did over 40 movies that first year of the pandemic. So they really are on trend. And since film was invented even, the romance genre has ebbed and flowed in popularity, but has seen a huge revival because channels like Hallmark are solely dedicated to love. The popularity of crime drama and rip from the headline stories also make TV movies popular. The crime and thriller genres, which I love to watch and write, are huge in entertainment and in books. I mean, who doesn't love a murder mystery or a gory thriller? So Lifetime TV has been a leader in the thriller for women genre. They aren't hardcore crime dramas though. They're known as women in peril thrillers. And they offer sort of a softer, bloodless 2 hours of entertainment. Mostly whodunits, they focus on the female protagonists and their need to be heard and to rescue themselves. All genres of TV movies aim to entertain. Again, channels like Hallmark and Lifetime work on the idea of higher volume versus higher budget experience. But they're also giving viewers what they demand, which is more light, easy to watch content that they can escape into. And why should you, as writers, if you are writers here, why should you write TV movies? Because they're a good way to get established as a screenwriter. You can get that elusive first long-form credit that can propel your screenwriting career. And producers are always looking for content, and in a relatively short time frame, you can get a professional writing credit. The development and production time of a TV movie is much quicker than a TV series or a feature film. And one thing about the Canadian industry is that in Vancouver and all across Canada, we make a lot of TV movies, and all for Hallmark and Lifetime and other channels, Super Channel, Disney now. So you probably can talk a lot about that as well. So I'm going to stop there, and yeah, I hope that was just a bit of an overview.
I love that. I mean, it's funny that you talk about this being like filling a gap in the market, because I mean, obviously I'm a little older than many of you, and I grew up, watching movies in the 80s, where you would go see Fatal Attraction, or you would go see a Meg Ryan or Tom Hanks movie in the theater. And now we go to the movies and it's all Marvel all the time. It's all a superhero, big budget action, tentpole movies, which is fine. They're fine. Some of them are okay. But to be honest, there's a whole section of the population that's not being served. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting that you talk about, that need to, and it's not just a female audience. Like, young people are watching them. I know that there are boys. I have an 18-year-old daughter. And so I see her friends watching them, some of them boys. It's interesting to me that, a genre finds a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think we're just watching so much TV now. And it's unfortunate for the big theaters.
Yeah. It does make me a little sad. But at least then, there are opportunities to watch different genres in that area.
Yeah, for sure. And TV movies, actually, there's also like, there's some horror that's done in the 9-act structure as well. And the rip for the headlines, which are true stories, those are often in the crime area, but they're also like uplifting dramas that happen on Hallmark that are often true stories. So those are quite popular. Are you doing any rip from the headlines?
We have, but not right at the moment, but we're shooting a thriller. We're in post on a Hallmark Christmas movie that will be delivered November 1st. And we're prepping another thriller.
What's the Hallmark movie called?
It's called All Saints Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. It was called Christmas in the Big Easy, but the title didn't last that long for some reason.
I love some of the titles.
I like that title, and then All Saints Christmas.
There's a movie I've been wanting to see, and I haven't actually seen it yet, but it's got the best title. It's called You're Baking Me Crazy, like bacon. I don't know what that movie is about, but I have to see it, because it's called You're Baking Me Crazy. Oh my God, it's fantastic. And there's a lot of cheese puns.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is with the cheese puns, but I kind of love them. I like the cheese factor, I have to admit. I was trying to make when my daughter was 16, we watched a lot of these movies together. Just, around Christmas time, we were like, what are we doing? Let's watch a whole bunch of Christmas movies. So we did, we watched loads. And I tried to get her to watch like I hate to say good Christmas movie, because I mean like a non-Hallmark, like a classic, like Miracle on 34th Street or something like that. And I put it on and she's like, Mom, no, I got the Hallmarky goodness. And I was like, okay, whatever. But we really started enjoying them. It was something we watched together. It wasn't kind of creepy. She watches Euphoria and I watch Euphoria, but we don't watch it together. That would be awful. What's
called co-viewing is really big in Hallmark. So they want they want it to be a family experience. They want moms with their teen daughters to be watching it, and grandma can be there, and aunties, and so there's no embarrassment, right? It's just like entertainment. It's light. It's family friendly. And so that's really specific. But Netflix is a little different. Like they'll have a movie like Holidays, which is, it's got
so fun.
It's so much fun. Yeah. So there's lots of drinking and sex.
Bit more edgy,
More edgy, but it's definitely got a 9-act structure. Yeah. And one thing that I do have in my book is I sort of spell out the 9-act structure, but I also look at what is a rom-com plot and what is a thriller plot. Because they really are like, Sleepless in Seattle or any of those old movies, they still follow that whole, plot of the rom-com, the expected story, but it's in there, even in the 9-act structure, you still have the, boy meets girl, or boy meets boy, or girl meets girl. So, and the diversity is really improving on these channels. The Hallmark is slower, but other channels you're definitely getting, all kinds of different cultures and stories.
Some LGBTQ representation, which is nice to see, and it is good. It's been interesting to watch. I think the head of Crown Media, which owns Hallmark, stepped down about 4 years ago, and was replaced by a black woman, a middle-aged black woman who has different ambitions for the network, which has been interesting to watch. And I kind of wanted, while you were talking, I wanted to just mention it's not just women writing these, by the way. Even though it's for a female audience and it's a female protagonist, you've got Craig Wenman and Keith Shaw as 2 people in your book that you interview. Do you want to maybe mention that for me?
Yeah. So at the back of the book, I have 5 writers who I have interviewed, and they're all working professionals writing TV movies. And Melissa Cassera, Carly Smale, Craig Wenman, Keith Shaw, and Kelly Peters and Amy Taylor. And 3 of them, Carly, Craig, and Keith, are Canadian, and the other 3 are from the States. And so they talk about how they got into screenwriting and how they write, especially a writing partnership. And Craig is sort of a superstar in town because he's written 60 movies or something.
60, 41 of which have been produced, which is unheard of. And it's a special weekend for him.
Yes.
Because his film Bandit just came out in movie theaters. So he's having a big theatrical release. It's Josh Duhamel, Mel Gibson, and what's her name?
Eliza Cuthbert.
Eliza Cuthbert, from 24. Is it Lisa? Yeah. I watched it yesterday.
Good.
It was excellent. Twisty, turny heist movie, Bandit.
So he's done well in terms of starting out at TV movies.
I bought it on Apple. I don't know what network.
Oh, yeah.
It's not sad.
And then he graduated to doing more action-y movies. Now he's doing features.
We work with this many male writers this week.
Yeah.
And he wrote garage sale mysteries, and he did. I came once as a guest speaker in my class, and he's like, I have rewritten Rear Window at least 6 times. The Alfred Hitchcock movie Rear Window. It's a classic, good example of a low-budget thriller. And you just give it a female lead, killer moves in next door, and you have a plot for a TV movie.
Well, and funny enough, I was talking with him because I said, I've got this concept that I want to develop into a script, and he was like, and I told him it was but it had a woman she was in a wheelchair, and then he's like, I have the same script. I just wrote that script. And it has the same title. Okay, we're still on the right path. Honestly,
What Adion said. He's a real character. But I love to see that. I love to see someone switching. And he's written a couple of Christmas movies too, I believe. He told me he had. We also have a friend called Paul Burkett who writes kind of sci-fi for the channel sci-fi TV movies. And he does a crazy, I watched a film that he wrote that was about a young woman who gets her pilot's license, takes her friends on a flight, in a small plane, and then they come across a giant octopus in the sky that they have to fight against. It sounds bizarre. It was so fun. It was, it's called Altitude. So if you want to look it up, it actually exists. It's a real film. But it's so when would you get a chance to write something like that?
Yeah.
Except in TV. So fun.
And I think one of the things too about both of our careers is that we write across all different genres. I have a couple of TV series that have been optioned with producers and they're in development right now. Yeah. And I also have a couple of features that are optioned with a producer that have, they're going nowhere because features, right? So you're just sort of doing all kinds of things like middle grade fiction, short stories you do as well.
Yeah, I've written a novel which I haven't published yet.
Yeah.
Okay, fingers crossed down the road.
So you're just sort of like throw it against the wall, and so it's just the way it is with screenwriting, I think in particular. I don't know how writers feel.
I mean, part of it's wanting to be a working writer, wanting to make money as a writer, and part of it is that I get passionate about different things. I know you're the same. Like, we're not just writing these things because, I can make some money doing this. We're writing these things because we're actually like, I wonder if I can do that. That might be fun to try. And then you give it a try and like, maybe I can do that. Maybe I'd be better off over that. And you figure out who you are as a writer by trying. Try a different genre, try a different demographic. Try a different tone, or a different format, I'm a big 1 hour drama. If I had my druthers, I'd be a 1 hour drama TV series writer. I love that.
Really?
But that doesn't mean I can't write other things. Absolutely I can. In fact, my novel's a historical novel. It took me ages, never again. But it was really fun to do. Like, I absolutely loved it. It took 4 years. It's a long time. And it's almost unsaleable. They were like, if it was Tudor, yes.
Oh yeah.
But it's not. It's Charles II. No one cares about Charles II. But it's as writers, like I'm sure most, if not all of you, are writers. Figure out what you love and do that. I think my favorite thing has been to see my friends who are writers do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, try a lot of different things, and really have multiple experiences, because it's a very rich life, trying different things and having this. I never intended this to be a thing. Like, this was my guinea pig, and then it's become something I'm really proud of, and actually it's been really helpful to people, and it's become like, as someone, I think you mentioned it was a bestseller. I never expected that. It's an Amazon bestseller, so what does that really mean? But it's not like New York Times bestseller. But it's been an Amazon bestseller in this category multiple times. And it's actually made some money, which is very nice. I know, I'm really, I just get, every time I get a check, I'm like, I can't really believe it. It feels like it should be $5. And it's not, it's the actual real money, which is kind of lovely. It's kind of exciting, and it also gives, for you too, like, I've recommended your book to so many people, because there is no other resource out there about this specific genre and this specific format that is as useful. I read your book, like, I ate it up, and then I immediately started using it for something I was working on. So it's been very interesting. These books, they're kind of how-to books. Yeah. Really. It's not like novels or something that, that we both write novels. And in fact, I'm hoping we have time to get you to read a bit from
or do we want to do questions?
I think we should probably do questions, but you should definitely get our books. Very good. But yeah, Chimera's it, right? Chimera's Apprentice. So good. But yeah, I hope you will ask us questions. On this panel, we have so much shared information to give. Yeah, in the back.
Well, I'm just wondering, the way you get your work out there, are you soliciting through the process of a query letter?
That's a great question, and we might come to that, but maybe I'll ask you first, because how you like to be approached. So why don't you tell us?
Well, we are always open to accepting scripts and being pitched. You do have to sign a waiver. So it's one of the requirements if you're not coming through an agent, and we just go back and forth. And if it's not, sometimes I know it's not in your book, but we'll even accept log lines if this doesn't work for us. We'll just say right away, no, don't think so, or you have to develop it more and then show it to us again. But I have reviewed log lines before, because we know exactly what Hallmark and Lifetime want. We are pitching them all the time, so we know exactly what they've recently done, what they're into now, and what they might be into in the future. So
That's really useful. Like, I wrote a Christmas movie. I have to admit, I did what I think everyone does. I was like, I know what Christmas movies are like. I've seen all these Christmas movies. I'm just going to do like that. So I did one of those. Big city girl moves to a small town, meets up with her ex-boyfriend from her past. I think you might have read it, or someone from your company read it. And that's not what they're doing now. They've done that. Now they're moving on to something else. So when people were reading my script, they were like, yeah, man, and it got rejected. And I was like, oh, I was so disappointed. But I made that slightly foolish move of doing what had been done, thinking that's what they want now, and what they want changes. So it's really helpful to know someone like Kimberley, or to reach out to a producer, or if you have an agent, to talk to your agent. And we can talk about getting an agent and how that works in a minute. But it can be really good if you have any contact in the industry, just to go, what are they looking for now? And you should be thinking about not what they made this year, but what they might want to make, a year or two from now.
I think you mentioned it, just keeping up with IMDb and, like all the research advice that Roslyn gives in her book about, you have to stay on top of who's doing what, who the producers are in town that are making the movies that you want to write, and what did they last pitch, what was made, that kind of thing. And then go to the Hallmark and Lifetime sites, or wherever or the Sci-Fi channel, and check out what they're doing right then and there.
IMDb Pro is quite good because there's a 30-day free trial, and it tells you what people have in development as well as what they have actually made. So that can give you like a one step closer to what they actually might be looking for now.
And it gives you contact information as well.
Yeah. Sorry, I think you were doing that first, and then I'll come back to you.
All right, no, I was just going to ask, because in all the scriptwriting classes I've taken so far, one of the main points they always stress is networking, how important it is. So I wonder if you have any specific tips on how to get your foot in as a young writer.
Do you want to go first one, Scott?
Yeah, networking is really important for sure. It's just really knowing in town who is sort of your target, in terms of producers, and also what sort of events happen in town. So one thing is this: you could go to these kind of panels and chat to people, but you can go to things like Women in Film and go to their events and meet other filmmakers there. And networking is not just about meeting the executive producer. It's about me meeting Kat and her going, oh, so-and-so sold a script, have you talked to them? Mm-hmm. You start to get friends in the industry, and everybody mostly shares their information, not board members probably, but and just going to film events like Crazy Eights, get involved if you're a screenwriter, write and create a short. There's programs where you can, Story Hive, Crazy Eights, where you can get funding to make these shorts. And then you've got a calling card film. So you really do have to start, small and work your way up. You're not going to come in with a Lord of the Rings script to somebody. It's 300 pages, it's my first movie, let's make it. You want to start out with manageable bites. So you could do web series, you could start out with TikTok videos. But yeah, getting yourself into any kind of writing group in town, even just going on Facebook and going screenwriting, networking, Vancouver film and television industry, all of those kinds of things, and following those and getting to know people. And there's always call outs on those groups for who's got a short film? I'm a new director, I'm working as a PA, but I have a degree in film. There's lots of people who are at your level, and then if you find that group, you can rise up with them, because people always want to work with good people they've worked with before.
Yeah, your generation is not so much Facebook, you're probably more Instagram, I'm going to guess. I'm making a little bit of a generalization. Twitter can be good. There's a hashtag Screenwriters on Twitter, which is really useful. Facebook, I find, Instagram a little bit less so. It doesn't have as much networking potential for people like us. Yeah. There is the called reading series, where you can submit 15-page sections of scripts, and they'll do a live table reading. At the moment, I think they're still on Zoom, but they'll go back in person soon, I think. Yeah. And Women in Film, by the way, is not only just open to women. Men are allowed to join as well. You just can't vote. It seems bad. So there are lots of kind of networking places. There's also something called My Tribe. It's MITRIBE, and they meet monthly at the Anza Club, and they show short films, and it's kind of networky. It's a good place to meet people, to have groups for Run and Gun, which is a short filmmaking contest, or for Crazy Eights, something like that. Yeah. And again, something like Crazy Eights would be great. Not even just to make a film, but the gala event is 1,200 people. Yeah. 1,200 people, almost all have entered or participated in the making of a film. It's a great place to meet people. And it's it's a little bit expensive, but I don't know how much it is now, $50 or something. But there's an after party. It's really fun, and it's a great place to meet a lot of people. So yeah, I'm with you on the networking thing. And I mean, we met initially, I think, at a Women in Film event maybe, or I knew someone a long time ago. I can't really remember.
I was gonna say also though, I don't know if you have the ability to intern, but I'm telling you, if you intern, you get in.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've always had amazing experiences with interns, and even if they're writers and they're coming in to do like run PA work, you find out they're a writer, you go, yeah, sure, show me your script, and then you go, well, who else have you know, who else do you know in the industry? Like, why don't you go see if so-and-so would work with you on this? Like, it just starts to snake, and, you know, you make connections that way, but you have to have the ability to be able to intern. And there's programs that support that. Is Creative BC still?
Creative BC has a story department internship, which is a bit tricky because it's hard to get into. Yeah, they don't anymore, but you can volunteer for a production company. Just my advice would be office PA, not on-set PA.
Yeah.
Like an on-set PA, you're wearing the vest and just guarding against random people wandering onto the set. But an office PA, you get a chance to see how the producers are working, you meet the development executives, like that would be like the perfect job. So interning or job shadowing an office PA is a really good beginning. And you can just volunteer to do that. If you go to the Creative BC website, they actually have a list of all the film and television shows that are coming and who the production manager is and what their phone number is. So you use that. Right? So you had a question though.
Sorry. Can I just say one more thing to add on to that? And because I know you poo-pooed Facebook, but
no, I love Facebook. It's just
but there's a huge screenwriting contingency on for groups just because it's an easier platform. So there's a big group. It's called Inc. Canada, and it's got every showrunner, every like working writer is on there. And you don't want to go on and go, hey, I'm new, you know, somebody hire me. You want to go on and just look at who the names are and what they're saying. And often somebody will come on like, you know, they'll just start like a diatribe of all these ideas of what they're looking for in writers. And people have been hired off that.
That's right. And they have Ink drinks. So once a month, drinks in Vancouver.
Is that the same as the magazine too? There's a magazine. Tips. Or
Ink Tips. That's an online website. They're different. Yeah, it's good though. If you want to post your screenplay, Ink Tip is great. That's how Craig Lemon got started.
Yeah, we look at it. That's what I was asking.
Thank you. I was just wondering, since I'm an older writer, so I have a shorter runway. So if you talk about agents as opposed to
absolutely. So I mean, do you want to go first on this one?
Sure. Yeah. So the thing with the agents these days is really they're really only making money on TV writers. So they're looking for people to come in with, you know, you've had some work already and you've got really great TV samples and they want to pitch you to TV people. That's what mostly my agents have told me, because I'm often recommending like, oh, I know this writer, can you negotiate a contract for them, or, you know, and they'll do that. So one way is to, if you get, say you write a TV movie and you pitch it and somebody buys it, with that contract, that is the time as a new writer to call an agent and go, can you negotiate my contract for me? They will usually do that because you're going to end up paying them a commission, but they may or may not take you on as a client as well. So it's difficult. Like if you have a feature film, it's really difficult, and you're not even necessary to have an agent because they're really not pitching out features at all. They're really, you know, they're pitching out TV movies or they're pitching out TV series. That's sort of my experience, and it's kind of hard because it is tough to get in somewhere, but having a contract is the best way.
I've had big chunks of my career where I didn't have an agent and I pitched myself, and almost everyone would accept a script from me eventually. You got to be polite and persistent. But you know, there are some people that will ask for the waiver that Kimberley described, and often that waiver will say that, you know, even if they make something identical, similar to or identical to the script that you submit, you can't sue them. They're not actually going to do that. It's just for the thing we were talking about with you, where you were saying somebody else has a Rear Window script with the same name. Yeah. Sometimes there's a synchronicity that, you know, you're both accessing the zeitgeist, you have something similar, and they don't want to get sued. So it's okay to sign that waiver. If it was identical, you still would be able to sue them, and they won't do it anyway. It's good to register your scripts, by the way, and then not be paranoid. But getting an agent, as you say, when you've got that contract on the table, or when there's a really juicy project that really looks commercial, that's something that they find interesting. So, you know, if you have maybe 3 or 4 samples, of work, so TV pilot scripts, spec scripts, maybe feature scripts, and someone is either interested or you have something that looks really juicy and that they could probably sell, then they're going to be more interested in you. The other thing you can do is make a lot of friends and ask one of your friends to recommend you to their agent. I got mine currently repped by an agent and a manager, and I got both of them through one of my writing partners. So two of my projects I'm writing solo, and one of them I'm writing with a sci-fi writer who has lots of experience in television. And so when we started writing together, she likes my work, we get on really well, we're working really well on a project together, and she recommended me to her manager. And so he brought me in for a meeting, we got along very well, and then they chose to rep me. And I signed an agency contract, and then they've got an in-house agent. So, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. You can cold query an agent, but they get hundreds of cold queries a week. So if they don't get back to you, be politely persistent. Every couple of weeks, hi, just wondering if you've had a chance to read my query. You know, I'd love to send you a one-page. Would you mind taking a look at my script? Be really polite, be really nice, never get bitter, never get nasty. They're incredibly busy. And they're working for the people that are contracted to them already. You know, that's their responsibility, is to try and make a living for the people who actually they represent. So it's the same thing with producers. You know, they're actually busy making films. So if they don't get back to you straight away, don't take it personally. Just keep coming back every couple of weeks. Hi, sorry to bug you again. I'm just hoping it's a better time. Wanted to take a look at my query, or take a look at my one sheet, or take a look at my script. You know, and eventually they'll be like, oh my God, it's just too tiring. All right, I'll read your script. And then they read your script, and then they can reject you or not, based on the actual material.
You mentioned registering scripts?
Yeah, there's two ways of doing it. So we used to be able to register scripts in Canada. Can't do that anymore. The Writers Guild doesn't do it anymore. So now you've got to register your script with the Writers Guild of America West, the Writers Guild of America East, or with the American Copyright Office. The reason you're going to use the American Copyright Office is that the Canadian Copyright Office, I'm sorry, less than useless, because they will accept your money and the title of your project, and then they will send you a certificate. And if you say to them, but you haven't got a copy of my script, they'll go, oh yeah, we don't need that. And then you're like, well, how is that going to help me? How is that going to be evidence that I wrote the script by a certain date? It's not. So don't use the Canadian or any other, just use the American ones. It's about $30 to register a script with the American Writers Guild. It's not expensive. The Copyright Office in America is what, 50 US, something like that. Is it 65 now?
We only register in the States. We don't
Yeah.
register.
That's very helpful, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And again, the best thing to do is register it and then not worry about it. But it is good to enter competitions, because if you can place or win in a competition, that can open doors to agencies as well. So a lot of people poo-poo competitions. I don't. I think they're really helpful. I've seen my students succeed because of them. So there's a website called Movie Bites, B-Y-T-E-S, Movie Bites, that has reviews of screenplay competitions. So go and have a look and think about competitions that suit you and your genre.
Why do people have a problem with it? Like,
Well, they just think it's a waste of money, right? Because, I mean, they do cost something to enter. And if you enter too many, that can just eat away at any potential profit you might make. But if you're trying to launch a career, you've got to think, yeah, how can I get my head above the parapet? How can I get people to see me and my talent?
okay, we got a wrap.
Excellent.
So before we go, I just want to remind everyone about Iron Books, which is the bookseller for this whole event. And all the books are available for sale out in the lobby. And I want to thank the staff and the volunteers for making this event possible. And obviously, I'm sure Kat had something to do with it, probably Roslyn too. So thank you both for coming and sharing your books with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Feel free to come and grab a bookmark from both of us if you'd like. They're on us.